Welcome to the MarTech Matrix, the podcast that cogently uncovers the business problems each tech company was built to solve. Today, Sean speaks with Jai Rawat, founder and CEO of Zinrelo, an enterprise-grade, SaaS-based loyalty platform that helps brands launch holistic rewards programs. Zinrelo combines technology with deep data analytics and ongoing strategy consultation to unlock multiple dimensions of loyalty, including transactional, social, advocacy, engagement, behavioral, and emotional. They will be discussing how brands can gain insights about their customers through a relevant value exchange that also grows their zero and first-party datasets. After the show, head on over to themartechmatrix.com for show notes, contact information, and details on upcoming episodes. Now, get ready to enter the Matrix.
Jai, welcome into the Matrix. How are you today?
Doing very well, Sean. Thank you for welcoming me to the Matrix. Should I take the blue pill or the red pill?
well, maybe we'll answer that question at the end. Let's start by saying, loyalty isn't, it's not a new idea, right? I mean, lots of brands have loyalty programs. But talk to us real quick before we jump into the sort of questions. What makes Zinrelo unique from the rest of the market when it comes to loyalty programs?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, loyalty programs are not a new concept. I think they've been around since, 18th century. As we like to say, until Zinrelo came along, they were kind of stuck in the 18th century. So what traditionally, if you look at that loyalty programs, they've been focused purely on transactional loyalty. You make a transaction, you get some points, and then you redeem those points for some rewards. Secondly, they were one size fits all. Right? So you and I, we may be totally different, but we have exactly the same loyalty program. What Zinrelo did was basically change all of that. So the first concept that we introduced is the concept of holistic loyalty, where we can track and reward customers for all types of engagements, not just transactions, but we create sort of 6 different dimensions of loyalty. Secondly, we focused on hyper-personalization. So different people in different segments, they can have different reward structure, which makes the programs a lot more effective. So those are sort of the 2 key innovations that we brought to the table. The other thing that we noticed was that a lot of companies were jumping into launching their loyalty programs without really understanding their exact business needs, why they are doing it. They're just doing it because everyone else has a program. So we created this 3-pronged approach for launching loyalty programs. The first step is what we call strategy before technology. Right? So we help the companies identify exactly what business problems they are trying to solve, do a detailed data analysis, financial modeling, customer journey mapping, etc., to figure out what should be the right program structure for them. The second component, of course, is the technology platform itself, which, as I mentioned, is a highly flexible platform. And the third component is after the program is up and running, you cannot just fire and forget and assume that just because you've launched the program, it's going to be successful. So what we do is we have a strategy consultation team that closely works with the customers to make sure that the program is performing at the optimal level by looking at the program performance, coming up with ideas for personalization, campaigns, and other A/B testing and optimization. And that helps ensure that every loyalty program that we launch is highly customized to the needs of a particular business, and it is successful and delivers the right results.
Got it. And how long ago did you start Zinrelo?
It's been 14 years now.
14 years.
Yes.
Okay. So you don't necessarily qualify as a startup anymore.
That's true.
But you operate like a startup, I imagine, like
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Being nimble, it sounds like you take a startup mindset to it. What sparked your idea? In other words, I mean, obviously you addressed some of the challenges that you saw with other loyalty programs or the differences that you have with those programs today. But was there something like what prompted you to start a loyalty business 14 years ago?
Yeah, so we were looking at the retail space and the types of problems and challenges that retailers face. Right? And we saw that most retailers have, some of the following priorities. First is customer retention, personalization, customer engagement, and also trying to wean customers off of discounting. Right? So these sort of four top priorities bubbled up in all of our conversations. So if you talk about customer retention, a lot of times retailers focus on acquisition, but customer acquisition is like the first date. They're checking you out, testing the waters, but customer retention is like marriage. They're wedded to you for life. So that happens to be one of the top drivers for revenue and profitability for retailers. The research says that it costs about 7 times more to acquire a new customer than to retain an existing one. If you increase your customer retention just by 5%, it can increase your profitability by up to 95%. So customer retention is and always should be a top priority for any business. The second priority we saw was personalization. Right? So one size fits all doesn't work anymore. Research has shown that customers are 53% more likely to buy from a brand which offers them a personalized experience. Customer engagement is another priority. Again, a lot of times customers are making a purchase, and between the two transactions, there is no way to keep the customers engaged. But if you can keep the customers engaged, the probability of selling to that customers is 60 to 70% compared to 5 to 10% for a non-engaged customers. And finally, retailers are always struggling to acquire and retain customers without discounting. I guess Bed Bath & Beyond is a great example. Their iconic, ubiquitous 20% off big blue coupons, it eventually led to their downfall because no one wanted to shop in their stores without the coupon. It basically killed their margins, and eventually they had to file for bankruptcy. So retailers are always struggling to figure out how do we keep the customers coming back without discounting. And we realized that a well-designed, a well-crafted loyalty platform can help retailers and brands with all of these challenges and more. So that was the thesis behind starting Zinrelo.
So I have a couple loyalty issues I'll point out, and love to get your thoughts on them. I find this a lot with direct-to-consumer brands more recently, where they specialize in a certain category of products, right? Whether it's T-shirts or even just clothing in general, or soap. I mean, take your pick, right? I don't need their product as often as they try to sell me their product. In other words, I bought their product. I signed up for their loyalty program. I bought 4 bars of soap. It's 3 days later or a week later. Like I shower every day, but I don't use 4 bars of soap. Or T-shirts, right? I bought a dozen T-shirts. I mean, how many T-shirts does a person need a year, right? Why are they emailing me every day telling me, I can get points for buying more T-shirts? Or they're on sale. It's like you should know I just bought a dozen T-shirts. Why are you trying to sell me more T-shirts? You have data that shows people need more than a dozen T-shirts. And they're using the loyalty angle as a catch, something to grab my attention. Is that just a lack of strategy?
It is. Actually, that's a great example that you brought up because that shows the lack of personalization and lack of strategy. What the retailers should be doing is mapping out the customer journey and saying, look, if a customer has made a purchase and they bought a dozen T-shirts, what is the likelihood that they're going to buy, or when are they likely to need their next set of T-shirts? Trying to sell you too early for additional T-shirts, it's not going to work. But what they need to do is somehow keep you engaged while you get ready for your next purchase. Rather than trying to sell you more right away, keeps you engaged, right? It could be a survey, it could be a quiz, it could be something else. The more they keep you engaged, the more they're going to stay top of their mind. So the next time you're looking to make a purchase, you're likely to go back. to that retailer. So that is what they should be focusing on, is building that customer engagement and identifying when the next transaction is likely to happen, and only then try to sell you that.
Yep. It feels like there's this conflict between their loyalty program and their email program, right? They feel like they need to email me every day. In some brands, I get twice a day. And I don't need an email. I'm not going to forget about you, right? It's just because I haven't bought a T-shirt in a week. Don't email me every day. It just annoys me more than it helps. But they're looking for something to say, right? They're looking for a reason to email me. So I would just wish that they would, if they sent me something useful, like you're saying, give me some tips on how to wash my T-shirts so that they stay fresh longer, so they don't fade, or give me some inspiration on how I can wear an item that I purchased from you. Just find something relevant that's content related instead of just buy. And I think that's a turnoff.
So, and I think what you mentioned is also the lack of synchronization between different departments. Right? So your loyalty program has to be integrated with your email system, with your CRM system, etc. So the kinds of things that you're mentioning don't happen, where you're getting 2 or 3 emails the same day from 3 different departments.
Exactly. Well, and I also think it's probably more challenging too for a D2C brand that only sells a limited number of categories, right? If it's 1 category, 2 categories, what do you have to say? Where if you sell lots of categories, you can continue to send me emails about, oh, we know you bought this shirt. Here's a new way to wear it, or here's a new pair of pants or shoes or whatever. Keep inspiring me to bring me back. So I think those D2C brands really need to find some strategy there. I have one other example, and it's an omni-channel example where I won't name the company, but it's a skincare, and I buy in the store and I buy online, and most of the time there's synergy there. Like I'm in the system and it works fine, and I get my points. But then I go to the airport, and they have a store there, and they tell me I can't use my point. I can't collect points there. I can't use them. Like there's just a complete disconnect. And I imagine there's some business reason for that. Like maybe they don't even own the store. It's somebody else is operating the store. But like I think it's a really bad branding experience when I can't use it when I need it.
I think that's a great point. And consistency of experience across all channels is very important. Now, one of the challenges is that if you are selling through a wholesale channel, how do you track that purchase and reward customers for that? Because you don't own that point of sale. So one of the innovations that Zinrelo has brought to the table is what we call receipt scanning, where we can allow customers who are making a purchase in to a wholesale retail outlet to take a picture of the receipt and submit it to the brand. We will automatically scan it, identify the line item that belongs to that brand, and reward customers for that purchase as well.
That's amazing, because sometimes I want to buy it in the store, or sometimes it's an impulse, or something I need. I can't wait for shipping, right? And I shouldn't be punished for that. And I imagine that the receipt scanning also can help with data gathering, right? A big topic for brands these days is first party data. They need to own more of it. Like there's just no question about it. Even if you're not sure what you're going to do with it tomorrow, you're going to need it later. Whether you're building your own large language models or you're just trying to learn more about your consumers and build those journeys you're talking about. How does Zinrelo help brands acquire first party data and even leverage it in terms of pushing it into other channels, using it to communicate? Where do you sit in that conversation?
That's a very relevant point that you brought up, because data acquisition is rapidly becoming one of the top priorities for retailers and brands. Because what's happening is that there's a lot of policy changes that are happening to enhance the digital privacy. Right? So that has resulted in a significant reduction in cookies. That has made targeting very difficult. Earlier, the marketers were using third-party data for targeting, but that data is now becoming harder and harder to come by because of this cookieless world that you are entering. So how do you collect data in a privacy first, policy compliant manner? Well, what you need is to create a value exchange for the users, right? And that can help you collect what's called zero party and first party data. So what is zero party data? Well, zero party data is the data that customers are directly and willingly sharing with you, generally with the implicit expectation that it will be used to personalize their experience, right? So say you are a retailer and you want to know the preferences of your customers, what styles and brands they like. Are they a bargain hunter or an early adopter, etc. Right? You can create a survey and ask these questions to the customers, and maybe you can award them points for completing that survey. So that's a value exchange. The customers are getting something in return for providing you that information, and now you can use that information to personalize the experience for the customer. If you are a brand, so you're talking about the omni-channel experience. So if you're a brand that has little to no direct-to-consumer business, and all of your sales are through these wholesale channels, say, like Colgate, you have no idea who your customers are. With the receipt scanning, the customers are telling you who they are, what they are buying, how much money they are spending, where they are buying it from. So you are getting this treasure trove of data which otherwise would not be available to you.
Yeah, I remember in the past, I don't know if some of these companies are still around, where there were these third-party apps that would just try and get you to scan your receipts for some kind of like kickback, right? You earn their points, not the brand's points. And I feel like they faded a little bit. I mean, I think they also spoke to a certain type of customer that was really looking for discounts. And in this case, it's really about looking for more than discounts. I want that personal experience. So I'm willing to give you my receipt. You might just happen to capture some other data that's there. And that's really a smart way for the brand to collect the data and create that personal experience. And I think going back to strategy, we could probably do a whole show with a bunch of different CEOs from different types of companies about personalization, because it means so many different things to so many different people. And I don't think personalization gets executed really well across the industry. And when it does, you notice it. So I think this is a really important way. And I think the one thing I wanted to call out there, what you just said, I think it's super important, is for those brands that sell wholesale, those brands that are selling, especially CPG brands, right? You're selling inside Walmart, you're selling in Target, the grocery store, wherever. You know nothing other than, there's a lot of computer vision coming out telling you who's walked by your shelf. But to get that real purchase data and profile the customer,
Yes,
I mean, that's priceless.
Computer vision data, etc. That belongs to the store, not the brand.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
So it's third party.
So I think,
right? It's third party.
So I think
brands need to own it.
Personalization also, you need to walk the fine line, right? You want to make sure that it's not creepy personalization, like the famous Target example that we know about.
We're talking about the teenage girl in the diapers, I suppose. Yes.
So, how do you do it in a manner so that the customers are not creeping out? Because when you talk about the zero party and first party data, this is data that you're collecting directly from the customer. So it is in a privacy compliant manner. And it is, as I said, with the implicit expectation that it will be used to personalize their experience. Just fine.
Yeah, it doesn't creep me out at all if it delights me, as we like to say. I'm reminded of just this week. I was going to someone's website, and it was research. To be fair, I wasn't shopping, but I'd been there many times, and they sell men's clothing and women's clothing. And I get the same homepage every time. And it's just, it's a woman in a bikini. And there's other bikinis or bathing suits being promoted on the homepage. And it's like, why aren't I getting a different page every time I come in? I'm going to the men's section. Why are you not learning that? I'll have to share that feedback with them someday. But it doesn't give me a good experience. And it's subtle, right? It doesn't change me from shopping there. But if it were more personalized, it probably would make me go, they're listening to me, and
exactly.
I might spend more money there. I want to go back to something you said earlier. You talked about holistic relationships and something about the 6 dimensions of loyalty.
Yeah.
Can you
So
elaborate on that?
the 6 dimensions that we look at are first transactional, which is obvious, right? So this is where you are rewarding customers for transacting with you. The second one is advocacy. So you're encouraging and rewarding customers for advocating on your behalf, which could be writing reviews or referrals, etc. The third one is engagement. This is where you are rewarding customers for any kind of engagement, whether it is visiting your website or store, signing up for a newsletter, maybe even watching your video, etc. Gamification ideas will fall into under engagement as well. Social, which is tracking and rewarding customers for sharing or following you on social channels. Behavioral, where you are molding customer behaviors, say they make 3 purchases in 2 months, or they're buying full price products or certain brands, etc. And finally, emotional, where you are connecting with the customers at an emotional level. It could be maybe supporting a cause they care about and letting them donate their points to a charity, letter from the CEO, early access to products, unique experiences, etc. I mean, this is a holy grail, to transcend that relationship from transactional to emotional. Uh, but when you're thinking about launching a loyalty program, we encourage everyone to think along these 6 different dimensions and think about, what are the different ways customers can benefit your business, and incorporate that into your rewards program.
Yeah, I mean, it's really smart to think about it's the earned media versus the paid media. When I think about the social piece that you mentioned there, as long as you know, I think there might be a disconnect. If you're a brand and you know that a customer has liked you on Facebook, you're already Facebook friends or whatever social channel you're asking them to be friends with you on, then stop asking them to be friends with you on an email, right? Like somehow make that connection. I'm not sure how you do that. I assume there's a way. Because that's earned media, right? That allows you to touch the consumer without bothering the consumer, right? It's casual. It's sitting in their feed. It's showing up on a regular basis. You don't have to email me every day. I know emails doesn't cost much to send, but it actually can cost you a lot in customers if you send too much of it. So it does have a negative aspect to it. So I like the social piece to it. But I think all of that plays back into the strategy piece you were talking about earlier. There's certain brands might jump more to one than another, or start in one place versus another based on the types of products they sell and the customers they have. So when you go to market, 14 years you've been around, I imagine you've seen quite an evolution in the loyalty space and the types of customers you sell to. I mean, 14 years ago, D2C was probably something of a new thing, right? Who's your ideal customer today on the advertise, or I guess on the
Ideal
brand side?
customer is either a retailer or brand that's selling products that are bought frequently. That's the easiest way to think about it. It could be like fashion, food and beverage, household goods, CPG brands, etc. We have a global presence in 70 plus countries now, and we support multiple currencies and languages. So, location is not a consideration for us. It's primarily, as I said, any business that's selling products and services that are bought frequently.
Okay. Do you, when you talk about the global piece, do you have customers that sell globally in different currencies where you've got programs in place that are slightly different based on the currency? And I don't mean just the currency piece. Do you find that if you have a customer that sells in the United States, France, and Japan, right? There are three very different cultures. Do they take the time to think through how the program should be different
Yes,
for that
that is
culture?
actually one of the key
And do you help
strategies
them with that?
as well. Is depending on the location, the program structure needs to be different. It has to take into account as you said, the cultural issues, What kind of a program structure should be there? What is your competitive situation in that particular country? What is your financial model in terms of your margins, etc. The loyalty program has to be profitable. So all of those considerations need to be looked at.
Since you mentioned the profitability piece, I've often thought about bigger programs like the airlines, right? And there's a lot of data out there around the value of a point and the hotels, because those are the big programs. How does a brand value? How do you understand the value of whatever it is you're giving them, whether it's points or whatever it might be? Do you help them
Yes, it
understand
is
the
a
value of
currency, and
that?
that
Because it's a
financial model
currency,
is very
right?
important. You mentioned airlines. Fun fact about airlines is that if you look at their market cap of the entire airline versus what their loyalty program is worth, their loyalty program is worth more than their entire market cap. So the rest of the business is probably a negative. Uh, yeah,
I was gonna say it's a
most
liability
companies,
at that point.
people sometimes look at loyalty programs as a liability. The reality is that it should be a profit center if you are structuring it correctly. And that is the reason why that initial program structure is such a critical uh, component and critical step in launching the program. So the other thing is that a lot of times people are, when they're launching the program, they're saying, oh, I've launched the program, the redemption rate is not good. That's good for me because, people are not redeeming, then I'm not giving them any discounts. It's, again, absolutely the wrong approach. Redemptions are good, otherwise the loyalty program is not working. People are not redeeming it, they're not seeing the value in it.
Right.
So you have to create the right structure where you identify the right point structure, for example, the right payback structure that is going to keep you profitable. What you should think about is, with the loyalty program, you can start weaning customers off of discounts. You don't have to do those frequent discounts anymore. Customers can create their own discounts. You can think about rewards that go beyond just discounts and gift cards. The rewards could be experiential rewards. For example, we work with a coffee shop where they say, hey, you can redeem the points to come into the coffee shop and learn to make a latte art. Great idea, right? It doesn't cost them much at all, but it's
they're more engaged with the product, right? They're more likely to use it because they have a connection to it.
They would otherwise probably not be able to get anywhere else. So think about experiential reward ideas, early access and such. They don't cost you any money. Again, airlines do a great job. If I'm a gold member, I get to board early on the plane. It makes me feel good. Doesn't cost them anything. I'm going to get on the plane anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the strategies that we help companies with. And how do you structure the right program, which is going to make sure that the program is profitable, yet it's going to deliver a lot of value for the customers.
So I want to go back to something you just said, because I remember when you said something about, it's working or it's not working, and we talked about liabilities. But I remember something in the news not too many years ago where, I don't know if it was airlines or hotels or another category, but they had to figure out how to get the loyalty, like they had to expire. There was this whole debate around, I think maybe it was airline points expiring if you don't use them, because it's a liability on their books, and if and they had to actually account for it in their I guess taxes or their 10Ks or whatever. Is that something that brands have to be worried about if they've given out, let's say, an equivalent of $100,000 in loyalty points, right? Is that something that they have to think about when it comes to their financials?
So if you have outstanding points that have not been redeemed yet, they do stay on the books as a liability. And that's the reason why A, redemptions are good. B, we do encourage brands to have an expiration policy for their loyalty program. So typically it may be that, hey, if the customer has not made any purchase in 12 months, then their points will expire. So if the customers become inactive, then the points will expire automatically after some time. So that way, the liability doesn't just keep growing indefinitely on the books. So that is definitely one of the important considerations in the program design.
Makes sense. Got it. Do you find that when you're selling the loyalty programs, the CFO gets involved or someone from finance is involved in the structure of the program? Is that a smart move if you're the
do that,
marketer
which is the right
that's
approach.
implementing it?
Unfortunately, more often than not, we don't see the CFO getting involved in the beginning, and then we encourage our customers and saying, no, you need to have your CFO involved in this discussion. They need to know what's going on. But a lot of times businesses don't think about it.
I want to ask you, this is going back to something else you said that triggered a thought around, we talked about multi-channel, but the one maybe exception to this conversation, to the positive part of the conversation, is Amazon, right? Do you find that brands that sell direct use loyalty points to get people off the Amazon train? I mean, they know they need to be there. It's a great acquisition channel. But if they keep buying from Amazon, they're not making the margins. They're maybe losing money. Do you find that people use loyalty to get people to buy from them directly so they can control that transaction more and make greater margins? Or do you find that people are letting consumers shop on Amazon and get loyalty points direct? Like we talked about with receipts.
Amazon is sort of the frenemy. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to be on Amazon, but you hate to be on Amazon as well at the same time. So this is one of the,
yes,
the big
true
consideration that we see from a lot of businesses is saying, how do I have a more direct relationship with my customers? When they're buying from Amazon, again, I don't know who the customers are. I don't get to build that relationship with the customers. And I'm giving up a lot of margins. So, retailers always want to make sure that customers are buying directly from them. And a loyalty program, again, gives them a great way to establish that direct relationship.
Yeah, and depending on the product, they can just drop something in the box or the packaging, and Amazon doesn't know it's even being, something promoting the loyalty program. If there's a brand listening and they're thinking about launching a loyalty program or even migrating from something they already have, and I imagine there's two answers to this, but what are the considerations they should be thinking about? In other words, what are some of the big thoughts they should have so that they don't make any mistakes?
As I said, understanding what you're trying to accomplish from your loyalty, having a very clear idea of what your objectives are, and is your loyalty program that you already have currently, is it meeting those objectives? If you're looking to change, why are you looking to change? What are you trying to accomplish in the new revised program? Having clarity on that is very important, and you'd be surprised how many times people are just jumping into it without really having a clear objective. The second is, when you are choosing the technology platform, making sure that it's future proof. Right? You're working with a platform that is going to stay at the cutting edge of innovation. There are companies out there that create a bundled product, for example. Right? You may have 6 different things that you can get from them. They will have reviews and UGC and SMS and loyalty, etc., all in one bundle, which gives you some cost savings. But the reality is, in the long term, they're not going to be able to stay at on top of the new innovations and technologies compared to companies that are dedicated to being a loyalty provider. So that is a big consideration, and oftentimes we see companies switching their loyalty platforms because they went with one of those lower cost bundled solutions, and a couple of years later they realize that they are just fallen behind the curve, and now they need to upgrade, and that's obviously a costly move. So that is a big consideration, that don't just think about, hey, I'm going to save some money by getting this solution. Think about, is it going to serve me for the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, that's something we talk about with our members at the Coaching Collective, pretty much with every solution that somebody might be looking at. It's like, okay, don't just think about your business today. Think about where you think your business will be in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, and make sure that you're partnering with a solution it's an investment. It's not just transactional. Are they the right people? Is it the right platform? Do they have the right roadmap? There's lots of considerations, and that's what we help them with, or one of the things we help them with. But it's good advice for someone looking at loyalty. Can you share with us an example of a brand that came to you? Were they migrating from? And we don't want outliers here. It's sort of a common use case. They come to you with a loyalty program in place. Were they looking to start one? How did you help them? And how do they measure success? I think that's the key here is we're not just doing loyalty programs for the sake of having one. We want it to be successful. So maybe take us through a scenario.
A good example would be, let's say, Jelly Belly. It's a household name. They've been a customer for a very long time now. They have seen over the years, and the primary goal was obviously to increase customer retention. Excuse me. So over the years, their customer retention has increased by about 77% since the launch of the program. Last year alone, it went up by another 9 to 10%. Their average order value has also consistently gone up. Again, I think last year it went up by another 8% or so. Repeat customer revenues, again, they've gone up by 70-80%. So these are some of the key metrics and key objectives they had in mind. They also had additional objectives when I was talking about the holistic approach. So they wanted to get more customer reviews, increase customer engagement, and so on. And we integrated with their review provider and helped increase their number of reviews by 56% by combining reviews with the loyalty program. From a customer engagement point of view, we've done a lot of innovative things. For example, they did an Easter egg campaign where during Easter, you could find those hidden Easter eggs and earn points for finding those eggs. A great way to engage customers, very brand appropriate. They've done a lot of creative things like a sweet summer reward campaign where the more you ordered, the more points you earned over the summer, etc. So outside of just customer retention and repeat customer purchases, there are a lot of other ways that the loyalty program has helped their business.
That's excellent. It sounds like a fun business to be in, right? Because you get to work with a lot of different brands, a lot of different ideas, a lot of different programs. What is the culture of the company, and how does that impact
the culture of the company is very
how you
important.
work with your customers?
And of course, it has to evolve as the company grows. There are 6 key values that we have in our company. First is, of course, customer comes first. Right? So we do whatever we need to do to make the customer successful. Second is what we call zero excuse mindset, which basically means you need to get things done. No excuses. Right? We strive for excellence in everything that we do. Need to keep an innovative and nimble mindset. To your point, we are 14 years old, but we still need to act as a startup. So we need to stay innovative. Respect is another key value. And finally, open communication. Whether it's good news or bad news, we are very transparent within the company where we openly communicate, every single aspect of the business with all the employees because, we want to make sure that everyone is working as a team. There are no silos.
Excellent. Sounds like a good place to work. How do you see, you've been in the business a while, how do you see it evolving in the next 5 years? Obviously, the last few have been probably some of the biggest changes with privacy laws and cookies and things like that. But how do you see the industry changing? What do you see impacting it over the next 5 years? And that's a big window in our business, but how do you think about it? I imagine you're doing some planning internally. How do you think about the advancements in technology?
With it. So as I mentioned, there has been a shift from traditional point-based systems to more experiential and engagement-driven programs. These days, loyalty is more than just sales. It's an important aspect of the customer experience and customer engagement. So we see that trend to continue as well. Customers are asking, they're saying, look, I am loyal to the brand, but is the brand loyal to me? So it's basically now the brands have to figure out, how do they show their loyalty to the customers as well? By, as you were saying earlier, Sean, right? By understanding my preferences, they need to know who I am. Don't keep showing me those, bikinis when I'm buying for men's products. Those are simple examples. The other thing that we touched upon is the loyalty programs continuing to evolve further as a key source of, zero and first-party customer data. Continue to offer that value exchange to the customers. Another trend that we are seeing is the loyalty programs are getting adopted in business verticals that traditionally did not have a loyalty program. So, retail, QSRs, airlines, hospitality, those are standard verticals that have always had loyalty programs. Now we are seeing loyalty programs permeate businesses like healthcare, real estate, finance, B2B, etc. These companies are now looking for creative methods to increase client retention and engagement. We talked about personalization. So, loyalty programs are also becoming more and more personalized because increasingly customers are expecting unique and memorable experiences rather than just a one size fits all program. And last but not least, I'd be remiss if I did not use the word AI. So, yes, of course. So the use of AI,
you better explain,
is important in loyalty programs in multiple ways. First of all, of course, machine learning allows you to do a much better job of customer segmentation and identifying customer preferences. You can use it for predictive modeling, understanding the customer journey, predicting, what this customer may need next. Right? So not sending you emails right after you buy a dozen t-shirts to buy you more t-shirts. Right. So that kind of predictive modeling, etc., can be done very, very effectively with machine learning. So that's a very important aspect. Right? With generative AI, it's more about messaging customers in a way that is going to be relevant to the customers, right? I mean, using different messaging to the millennials and the Gen Zs versus the Gen Xers, etc., right? And maybe even going more personalized than that, based on the user's interest and so on. You could not do it at scale earlier. I mean, you could potentially do some broad customer segments and do different targeted messaging, but with generative AI, you literally can on the fly have like one-to-one personalization for messaging, which is game changing. So those are some of the areas where I see the industry moving.
Sounds good. I'm glad we have you to be the voice of the consumer when speaking to these brands about their programs, because I would love some better programs. After the show, I'll send you my list of complaints when it comes to the brands that I work with that I buy from that I wish had better programs. I wish didn't email me so much, and then maybe you can go fix them for me. But let's call it a wrap there. I thought this was very informative. There's a lot more to loyalty than I think meets the eye that maybe more people need to give thought to in terms of the programs they have and how they implement them. And it sounds like Zinrelo would be a great resource for them. You have a lot of expertise, it sounds like, and you can really help them strategize what their programs will be. So we appreciate you being inside the matrix today, and hopefully we can have you back soon with one of your clients or one of your brands and hear how their experience has been with Zinrelo. And I think that's really important for brands to hear. So with that, we'll end it. Thanks, Jai. Have a great weekend. All right. Take care. Bye.
This episode of the MarTech Matrix was brought to you by the Cogent Collective, a community of marketing and e-commerce leaders. Learn more at cogentcollective.com. For show notes and information on upcoming episodes, head on over to the martechmatrix.com. If you would like to learn more about the companies appearing on this podcast and see if they are a good fit for your company, send Sean a note at sean@cogentcollective.com. New episodes of the MarTech Matrix podcast will drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe with your favorite podcast network so you can stay on top of what's happening in the Matrix.